Hi, Brian.
Hi, Carl. How are you?
I'm great, man. Thank you for doing it with us here. I'm sorry it's a little lonelier than we had originally imagined it would be, but we're really happy to have you do this with us. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you just want to talk to us first a little bit about how you ended up doing this with your life and what your path was and your relationship to the art form?
Sure. My path I think is pretty atypical. The very first thing that I ever wrote in kind of a theatrical form was back in high school. I wrote this really painfully personal monologue that for some reason they thought would be okay to put on stage in this kind of evening of short work. It was a major mistake, first of all, because I was performing it, and it was all about what was happening to me literally in that moment in time.
Wow.
But it really taught me the value of personal expression, and also that theater is not necessarily the form for me to air out my personal dirty laundry. And then I wrote another really terrible play, which I found a year ago, and I threw away that copy, so no one will ever have to see it. I went to college not knowing what I wanted to do. I took a theater class, decided I wanted to be an actor, spent a semester under that delusion and dropped out of that pretty quickly. Got into technical theater, and I also really became established that I was passionate about writing, but I didn't think of myself as a playwright yet. I experimented a lot with form and everything, and just kind of messed around a lot in college and tried to figure out what I liked about theater as an art form. And technical theater is really, I think, where I cut my teeth and figured out how I wanted to attack playwriting. I spent a lot of times in rehearsal rooms as a stage manager, which you just get to hear the script over and over and over, and that to me is the best way to learn about scripts, is to figure out how they work from the inside, and what actors latch onto, what they struggle with, when plays come alive on stage. I learned as a stage manager, and then design gave me a really different inroad and made me constantly think about things physically in space, which is really, really important to theater for me. And I became a really bad mimic of much better playwrights in kind of my early playwriting career.
Would you mind divulging? You can say no. It's okay.
Oh yeah, no. Sam Shepard was somebody that I really liked to try to pretend to be, and I still do a little bit with Sam. Oh my gosh. One of my favorite plays was Virginia Woolf, and I tried to imitate that a lot.
Yeah.
I tried to be a better form of David Mamet a little bit. But it was stuck in kind of contemporary realism. I was stuck in thinking that things had to have walls and characters had to have these kind of complete lives that we understood, and we understood all their motivation. And it was very to sound overly theatrical, like Jacobian, in that kind of drama in an American sense. But I slowly came to the realization that that wasn't the kind of theater that I liked seeing. That wasn't what I thought theater could do best at. I think that actually movies are a much better form if we want to recreate reality. That I wasn't terribly good at writing it. And so I got a couple of great challenges. I was given an artist in residence with a theater company, and they told me I had a year to write a script that I hadn't started even conceiving. And so I had to go with this impulse of everything I thought was right, because I had to write something right then. And so my form got looser. I stopped worrying about finding the exact reason for character motivations, and started just writing much more expansively and expressively. And that kind of led me to really having a voice and being bold, and trying to find what is theatrical in things, even if something is simple and nuanced. I still like to find a theatrical conceit to surround it in things to make it have to be on stage rather than anywhere else.
So the students and I have been talking very much about why certain stories end up in one form versus another form, and that was also kind of your trajectory. It sounds like.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I mean, I think that there's a couple of really bad movies that you can see that are plays that are really, really great plays. Like Proof. Proof never should be anywhere but on stage. You know, film can jump around so easily from location to location, and it's so hard for theater to do that in a realistic way. But Proof being condensed all into one space, and just having that family tension in the backyard, which is also such like a great classic place for American plays to be set. It works so well, and it's just a beautiful play. And I can't get enough of that script, but I think it's a pretty pedestrian kind of movie.
This
which
is true.
Sad because it's beautiful on stage. Yeah, I mean, figuring out what belongs on stage, I think, is a major challenge of theater makers right now, because it requires something different of an audience. It requires them to come out together and to experiencing something with each other, which is something we're not really as comfortable with anymore.
Can I run down some of the questions that some of our students submitted to you?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see. We'll start with Armand Olivier, and he said, so did meeting Paula Vogel, who you say is your personal idol, he looked you up and read something about that.
Yeah.
You know, he said that you have written about fear as a playwright, and did meeting her deter some of that fear about being in the theater? Did it exacerbate it? How is that related to fear?
Yeah. Fear is still a huge motivating factor for me. I try to do things that'll constantly make me afraid. And meeting Paula, it was such a relief. Like, writing to her was the scary part, and shaking her hand for the first time was the scary part. But she, and I think this is true for a lot of theater folks, she's so inviting, she's so engaging. And she wants to listen to you as a person. The very first time I met her was after an evening where she spoke, and I was too afraid to even talk during the Q&A. And I rambled on for several seconds trying to get a question like I'm wont to do. But she stopped, and she's like, "Whoa, hi, I'm Paula, and you are," and she made me introduce myself. And shook my hand, and then we had like a nice little conversation. Then I wrote her again, and I said that I really wanted to meet her, and she made time, and it was lovely and really empowering, because one of the things Paula believes, and I've come to believe, is this idea that we rise faster in circles. So to surround yourself with people whose art you believe in, and whose work ethic you believe in, and are working in modes that challenge you, and to celebrate their successes, not to see the person that you're auditioning against or submitting alongside of as competition, but as doing something unique. And if they get the part, celebrate that. If they get if their play gets selected, celebrate it, because it's not that you weren't good, it's that the theater was looking for what that person is doing instead. And it's a difficult message, and I still have trouble with it sometimes. It's a life goal to be able to live that, but it's such a great and true idea. So hearing that, even from somebody at her level, definitely put aside fear, but in my writing, I still try to be really afraid and comfortable